Where do you want to start? I jotted down Trevor Jackson, the 2024 quarterback. We could start there possibly.
Absolutely, Trevor Jackson, big time quarterback commit for the Noles. A guy you get to come in as a preferred walk on. You've got other schools in the state. You've got a program coming up from Miami after this. Those guys couldn't bring in a single blue chip quarterback. Here we have a guy, Luke Cromenhawk, who in my eyes is a 5-star. They kind of he rose real high, became a 5-star. They backed it off. He's a high 4-star. But you're able to get in another 4-star, another Elite 11 competitor. This is not, some project guy. He's a legit blue chip quarterback. He won the Real Shot Challenge at the Elite 11 competition. Really had his coming up out party there. He had another, I think, elite kind of quarterback transfer in to the school he was at, so he kind of split duties. And they had a pretty interesting system, not your traditional system. I think he ran for like 10 TDs his senior year, but a good pickup, man. Somebody that's going to be able to run scout team, I imagine, this year and compete, help keep Luke pushing forward. And who knows, they could possibly have different, packages for him, different stuff. Like I said, different little packages in place for him. If he's one of those guys that's ready to climb, or he could be a guy who just helps you and is a solid practice player for a couple of years before he transfers out to get an opportunity somewhere else. Either way, I trust the staff, and you love it. You love to see that quarterback room go from where it was just a few weeks ago, where it was pretty much Jordan Travis or bust. He gets injured and goes out, and that's it. You got a true freshman who's only been able to practice 3 weeks out of the year. And another guy who got a concussion, and Tate Rodemaker, who's already transferred out of the program. But when you look forward, bringing in Trevor Jackson, now you look forward, you have DJ Uiagalelei behind him. You have Brock Glenn. Then you have a Luke Cromenhawk, again, a blue chip guy. And, of course, another blue chip guy to come in alongside him. It's great things. But also, we could go right along to the 2025 class. Florida State lands a blue chip, I believe, number 47 overall, if I'm not mistaken. JV Hilson, defensive end, just an absolute freak of nature. I want to say he's 6'3.5", like 225 pounds. Just that kind of dude. Exactly that. 6'3.5", 225 pounds, out of Cocoa, Florida, Cocoa High School. A place that has paid dividends for us. And you reach back in that pot and get another big time guy. He's a composite like 9.753, which if you follow recruiting rankings, he's right there at a 5-star. Maybe they've got 32 5-stars out at this point, and he's number 47. So he could very easily end up being a 5-star. You've got another guy in this class, Zion Grady, who just decommitted from Alabama. A guy to look out for. I know he's going to be on campus at Florida State here pretty quick. I think Auburn and Georgia will be a couple people to compete for, but he's been on campus again at Florida State several times, and he's another big time. I believe he is a 5-star, or again, he's one of those guys that's right outside of it, if not in the 247 composite. So big things happening in that 2025 class. Also the 2024 class. You got a guy like Amari Williams, an absolute freak. He was originally in this 2025 class that is just absolutely loaded. He got some advice to reclassify. So now he's a 2024 kid. And with, the things happening at Bama, it's, a lot of signs looking really good. There's a lot of whispers around Florida State. So look to see possibly have a chance to get him between now and that February signing day coming down the road. That would be really nice. But yeah, high school is just moving at a steady clip. I've talked a lot about this 2025 class being that one where Mike Norvell really steps into the big leagues, and you have that true top 5 class. I think that's what we're going to end up getting, and it's no surprise that they're getting out of the gates strong. But yeah, Amari Williams, man, he's a freak. He's just, don't let his ranking fool you. He's not a 5-star, he's not the super, super high recruit in this class, but that's simply due to a reclassification. So the ceiling is through the roof. He's just, dropped down and playing with a little bit of older competition there for graduating so soon. But definitely a high roof on this guy, and you definitely want to get him in there if any way possible. And it's definitely looking good. Another guy that, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing back, but back to the 2025 class. all this Alabama stuff that I'm sure we'll get into a few minutes when we get into the transfer portal. Jamie French, a guy from Mandarin High School. Of course, James Coleman, Den Media Group, our good friend, coaches at Mandarin High School. I believe coaches running backs over there. So, would love to to get this guy in. And again, with Saban leaving, he has decommitted. So it's just getting him in, continuing that relationship. But you absolutely love Florida State's chances with him. Kind of like Amari Williams with the 2024 class. One of those guys you can keep your eyes open on a commit at any given time. So you love to see it there.
Just to get everyone lined up on some of these numbers from high school production for these guys. So we got Amari Williams, George ran it down in regards to his measurables, the 247 ranking, all of that. He caught 16 balls this past high school football season, 424 yards, 26.5 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns. So when I see the category athlete, obviously almost all of those guys are DBs / wide receivers. You've seen a few more recently have been outside linebacker, tight ends, but almost always they're defensive backs, wide receivers. Where is he leaning? Do we know which side of the ball?
This is a defensive end we're talking about here. So
okay.
Yes, sir. He plays some tight end as well, but yeah, he's a freak of nature. Like I said, 6'3.5", 225. But you play both ways in high school, but no, he's they want him to come in and rush the passer at Florida State, and he is going to be a freak at it. He just, like I said, he reclassified. So especially being a junior, I'm sure he played a little bit more tight end. Probably if he wouldn't have reclassified, he probably would have specialized and really honed in on the D end stuff. So that's probably why his stats are that. But no, I'm sure he's probably had some explosive growth here in the past 18 months and blossomed. But yeah, he's going to be a freak off the edge. May take him a year. He'll probably be a red shirt guy, but all the tools are there for sure.
So folks, on that side of the ball, this past high school season, 10 games played for Amari Williams, 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, had 34 total tackles. And as we move on to Javion Hilson, who again flipped from Bama, 27 tackles for loss this last season, 14 sacks, 94 tackles, huge production for him. And then Trevor Jackson this past season. And again, we read off the stats. They're interesting to me, but at the same time, let's understand stats become more and more meaningful the higher you go in levels. High school, you assume in Florida, they're going to have top competition to play against. You go to other parts of the country and the stats could be skewed in all sorts of ways, but just to run down it here, Trevor Jackson, 55% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks this last year, through 16 touchdowns and 7 picks at 59% the season before. So he's a 30-12 TD to pick ratio during his career in high school thus far.
Absolutely. Really excited to get him in. He'll be a real, real great addition to that class. You lose, excuse me, you lose a guy like Dino English this past year, your guy who was a walk-on for a couple of years, and he's a real leader in the locker room for those walk-on guys and just a glue guy. You imagine Trevor can come in and do that as well, and they'll fight for scholarship points at some point. So can't wait to see what he can come in and do.
Well, when George made the comment about Mike Norvell taking some shots for recruiting and the recruiting rankings versus Florida versus Miami, I got to say, for any Florida State fans to check out the video, which you've got no reason to check it out now, but when Norvell was in the talk with Lanning and everyone else for the Bama job, I did my pros and cons for every coach. I took like the 5 or 6 top candidates and I went down the list. And I got to say, when I went to Norvell, I had all pros. I think Mike Norvell's doing an outstanding job. But I thought of, okay, I will mention that if you strictly just look at recruiting rankings, that maybe Florida and Miami have, I wouldn't say that have done better, but it's not been what's been represented on the field, where Florida State has obviously clearly exceeded the other two in the last 2 seasons. So that was my only, that's all I could come up with.
It's fair. Yeah. Look, it's fair. It's apples to oranges, Florida State, he's on a trajectory. He's improving. So it's like, yeah, it wasn't that good, but we finished like 10th this year, 11th by on 3. But like you say, like we just talked about, Amari Williams, there's other guys. This thing, we could end up finishing 6th or 7th. So it's heading in the right direction. And they were forced to go with the portal. That was the thing they were forced to do the first couple of years. And now look, they have an absolute weapon where people are, okay, this isn't, mercenary, this or that. We're literally building teams and getting guys like Jen had mentioned. We're getting guys that we won out of high school just last year, the year before, the top 100 players in the nation, and you're getting them over. It's like, so it's really amazing what he has done as an evaluator and picking and choosing the guys he brings in, be it out of high school or the transfer portal. He's proved himself to be elite. And the high school thing is just going to come. Even now with Saban retiring, you're taking another hand out of Florida. It's going to get freaky. So sorry to interrupt you. I know you got something, Jen, too.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, well, I mean, if you think about it, look at the kid, the 2025 kid that flipped from Alabama. Florida State was his number 2 as well. So there it goes. And in his interview, he said, even after I committed to Alabama, Florida State still told me how great I was. The coaches still treated me exactly the same, invited me down, talked to me, all these things. And they continue to do that. And I think that they kept relationships open. Now, I do feel like if a certain defensive back has to sit this year behind another DB that might be transferring from Alabama to Georgia, I don't think that line of communication will be open anymore. I'm just going to be honest about that. But I think that in certain cases, they do keep those relationships open. I've kind of heard that even, I mean, I know it was Marcus Woodson and he's no longer there, but I think even after, and I have heard this, that after Travis Hunter decommitted, Marcus Woodson was still in contact with him. Mike Norvell was still in contact with him just to check in and see how he was. I don't think that relationship was as tarnished as some people like to think it was. Whether or not the fans agree with that choice, I think that they really do care about these kids, and I think the kids understand that. And I think that's the appeal there, especially when you're talking about the portal. When you have kids that need to transfer for whatever reason, their coach leaves or they're not happy, where do they think to go? They think of the coaching staff that still treated them like a recruit that they really wanted, even after they committed, even after they spurned them, just still continued to care about them. And I think that's actually a good thing. And I also think that's why Mike Norvell was on Alabama's list. You look at the portal, the way he does the portal, the way he recruits the portal, I think that's why he was appealing to Alabama. Because, Saban, he did use it. He did use it with Gibbs and some other players. He got some good players in there. But, that's everybody thought that Dabo Swinney was chalk to the Alabama job should Nick ever retire, right? Until the transfer portal came along, right? I mean, I think that's, and look, I think these young coaches that are really good in the portal, that are finding their own in high school recruiting, and that's where I would go with that. I think that's the new normal in college football. And I don't know what else to tell anybody. I know Bama fans are really hurting right now. Welcome to the real world of being real college football fans. I know this hits you in the face a little bit. It really does. And it sucks. And I feel bad for you, except for I don't. So I think that's just the new normal.